Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Column EDC Coffee Chat. We are really happy to have Heidi Iyall, sorry about that, on with us today. Heidi is with the Department of Financial Institutions and represents the program Washington Saves that is just being stood up in the state. And so it's important that all employers understand this program. Just a few housekeeping items before we kick it off. I ask that you put yourself on mute. If you don't, I'll go ahead and do that for you so we don't inadvertently pick up any background noise, puppies barking, kids yelling, husbands yelling, whatever that might be. And then also, we like this to be interactive. So if you have any questions of Heidi, please put your questions in the chat if you'd like me to ask them. And if you would prefer to ask them yourself, we always appreciate that. You can raise your electronic hand and I will call on you. So, Heidi, thank you so much for joining us and preparing this presentation for us so we can learn all about Washington Saves. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Colleen. Can you see my slide deck
Yes,
okay?
perfect.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to today's coffee chat. It's great to be here. My name is Heidi Iyall, as Colleen mentioned, and I'm on the outreach and marketing team for a new state-facilitated retirement savings program that's opening in July 2027, and that's called Washington Saves. So for today's session, I plan to share a brief overview of the retirement savings gap problem and how Washington Saves is hoping to address it. I'll then introduce you to the program and give you a sneak peek of possible design features and discuss some benefits of the program for both employers and employees. I'll end with some suggested ways to connect with the program after today and leave time for questions at the end. So before diving into the specifics about the program, I'd like to start by giving some background on the retirement savings gap problem. According to retirement data, 51% of Americans worry that they'll run out of money when they're no longer earning a paycheck, and 70% of retirees wish that they had started saving earlier. In Washington specifically, there are approximately 1.2 million people who don't have access to retirement benefits at work. And this insufficient retirement savings gap ultimately impacts us all. It's estimated it'll cost the state $3.9 billion over the next 20 years. However, research does show that workers are 15 times more likely to save for retirement when using automatic payroll deduction. So with this problem in mind, the state legislature created Washington Saves in 2024 to give people the opportunity for more financial stability. Washington Saves is a retirement program for workers whose employers do not offer a workplace plan, or for people who are self-employed or those working for a non-mandated employer. They can also enroll as individuals. The program is anticipated to start in July 2027, and it'll give workers the ability to contribute to an individual retirement account, or IRA, through automatic payroll deduction. It creates a public-private partnership where investment accounts will be professionally managed by a private investment company, financial company, with oversight by a public governing board. So knowing that people are much more likely to save when they have access to retirement savings through work, the law that created Washington Saves also created a new requirement for certain employers. State law requires employers to participate in Washington Saves if they have operated in Washington for 2 or more years, if they have a physical presence in Washington, if they've employed workers who together have worked at least 10,400 hours in the previous calendar year, which is equivalent to about 5 FTE, or if they do not offer a qualified retirement plan. This means that when the program opens in July 2027, an employer must either offer a qualified retirement plan of their choice or register for Washington Saves and facilitate access for their employees. Again, I want to emphasize here that if a person works for an employer who doesn't meet this criteria and is exempt from the mandate, such as someone who is self-employed or works for a business that doesn't meet that minimum employee threshold, they can still participate in Washington Saves as individuals, but they would be responsible for submitting their own contributions to their IRA account rather than doing it through their employer. So if their employer has a qualified retirement plan established for their employees, such as a 401k, simple IRA, or other plan listed on this slide, they will be exempt from participating in Washington Saves. Whether an employer chooses a private plan or participates in this public program, our goal is to give more people access to the tools that will help them build wealth in retirement. So Washington Saves addresses three key hurdles reported by employers that do not offer a plan, which are administrative burden, cost, and fiduciary risk. Washington Saves will be designed to be easy to facilitate. There will be no program fees for employers and no required contributions or match. And employers are not fiduciaries, so they're not responsible for program design or employee account administration. We also believe that there are many benefits for employers to participate in the program. Research shows that employers who offer retirement savings and other benefits tend to report increased employee morale, job satisfaction, and productivity among their employees. And then we also think that there's a community benefit in that financial independent retirees have more discretionary spending to spend in the local communities and support the overall economy. So now that we've talked about who the program applies to, let's walk through what this actually looks like for employers. If an employer decides to sign up for Washington Saves and facilitate access for their employees to the program, their responsibilities can be summarized in 4 easy steps. Step 1 is the employers will need to register by the state required deadline and take some time to set up their account. The Washington Saves Governing Board has yet to determine when those deadlines will be, but businesses will be notified of their compliance deadlines when the program gets closer to opening. Setting up an account will be an easy online process that should take no more than 15 minutes. It will include setting up a username and password, including any backup, indicating who will be facilitating the program for your business, including any backups that you might want to delegate, like someone who covers payroll while you're out of the office. You can even assign a third-party delegate, like a CPA, bookkeeper, or payroll provider if they manage payroll functions for your business. And then step 2, employers will be required to submit a roster of their eligible employees. Any employee that's 18 or older and works for a participating employer is eligible for the program. We will have an easy way for employers to be able to upload their employees' information directly to the program administrator's online system, and that will initiate that automatic enrollment feature that will help you maintain, and it will help you maintain a list of the employees participating from your program or in your program. And then step 3, currently the law says that employers will be responsible for sharing basic information with their employees. But we're trying to make this as easy as possible by having our program administrator send employees a welcome packet directly with information that talks about how the program works and what their options are. Employees will also have access to customer support if they have questions or want more information to help them make decisions. And for employers who still want to share additional information with their employees, we'll provide a toolkit with ready-to-use materials that you can share with your employees. And then step 4, employers will need to submit their payroll contributions to their participating employees each pay period. So an employee that does not opt out will be automatically enrolled in the program at the default settings, and the employer will need to submit payroll contributions to those IRA accounts as well. So there are a few things that employers will not be responsible for, so I want to make sure that I mention those, and that is, again, there are no program fees for employers to participate in this program. Employers do not have any fiduciary responsibility. In other words, they're not liable for any program design, performance, or whether or not their employee participates. And employers are not allowed to make matching contributions. So for businesses that have tight overhead, um, or who are worried about the cost of offering a qualified retirement plan, Washington Saves is a great option to give your employees a way to save for retirement through work. There are a few things that we'll advise employers not to do. We'll ask that they not encourage or discourage participation in Washington Saves. We will provide information to your employees to help them make decisions on their own and have customer service staff available to help them answer employees' questions, but we don't want them to feel pressured to participate either way. Employers will not be required to provide investment advice or answer any questions related to taxes or participation in the program. If their employees need help with that, they can contact the program directly or consult a financial advisor in their community. And then employers will not manage investment options, process distributions, or manage any changes your employee may need to make in relation to the participation in the program. If someone wants to opt out or change their address or add a beneficiary, for example, they can do so directly with the program so that you can focus on running your business and not worry about helping your employees coordinate their participation in the program.
So before Heidi, you move on, we've got some questions in the chat. A
Sure.
slide, I know we're on slide 8, I think it was maybe 4, referred to working 10,400 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. There, yep. Employed workers who together worked at least 10,400 hours in the previous calendar year. So you may have part-time workers but in total, if all of your employees worked more than 10,400 hours, is that
Yeah, that's
okay?
correct.
Okay.
And we will
That's
get that information from what you report to Employment Security in terms
okay.
of the hours, employee
Uh-huh.
hours.
Okay.
And so businesses that look like they might fall under that threshold will get a notification saying, it looks like you may fall, have this many hours of employees and they'll be given information about what to do next. Either they can, register with the program by the deadline, or they can file for an exemption if they think that they don't meet the mandate.
Okay. And so that answers the next question. Let's see.
But what would the exemptions? What are the allowed exemptions? Has that been determined yet?
So, let's say you plan to offer a qualified retirement plan on the private market from the private market, then that would be considered a reason for an exemption. If you have less than 10,400 hours, let's say you've had to downsize and you don't have as many staff as you're reporting, then that might be an exemption. But yeah, the rulemaking process is underway now, so we'll have a lot more details. But basically, the exemption would be, I don't think I meet the criteria for this mandate because I don't meet um, one of these requirements.
Okay. And so the 10,400, that's the equivalent of 5 full-time employees.
Yeah,
10,400 divided by 2080. Yeah, it's 5. So, and then Michael Smith mentions that they use Share Builder 401k that has a solo 401k for as little as one employee for a fee of $8 per month. So this is $0 per month,
yes,
correct, for the employer.
for the
Um,
employer
but
program
this
fee.
would be an IRA rather than a 401k. If there's no expense to the employer, what would be the benefit of a 401k versus an IRA to the employee?
Well, oftentimes 401ks offer a matching contribution. So obviously I mean, ideal for an employee to get, their employer providing some match or contributing to their retirement as
Mhm.
well. That's an added benefit. But for some employers, that's just not feasible, especially when they're starting a new, a small business. They have tight overhead. They may not be able to afford that. And, they may decide they want to graduate out of Washington Saves. This is sort of a stopgap measure to sort of support employees starting to save. But, employers don't have to stay with Washington Saves for the long term. if they get into a better situation where they can afford to explore other options where they can provide some matching contributions, they're certainly welcome to do that. But yeah, this we're meant we the program was set up to be as low barrier as possible for employers to participate in, but still allowing an option for people to save for retirement through work. Because, as I mentioned, that, doing it through automatic payroll deduction increases the likelihood that people will start saving if it's just done automatically.
Mhm. Lena, do you have any follow-on questions?
I'm very interested in this topic. Because as a bookkeeper and accountant, and tax preparer, what I see for these small employers, and 5 employees is kind of on the cusp, is a lot of additional administrative burden and cost. Like people are going to have to pay someone like me or whoever their payroll provider is to set up the payroll deductions and process the payment. So that and so it'll be interesting. I would be curious, and I'll look at the website to see if there's a place to provide input. I think the size of the employer is probably more, I don't know. I This is the first I've heard of it, so I really appreciate you coming and talking about it.
Yeah.
But I see this as, and I've been drafting an email to my team to say this is coming in. We are going to have to, share information with all of our employers. Um, so this is
Yeah.
interesting.
Lena, I appreciate your bringing that up. We are also in the background trying to work with payroll providers in the state to see what can we do to sort of support employers having to take on this mandate. And so we are trying to work with especially the bigger payroll providers to say, are there ways that you can streamline this process, make it no cost or low cost to be able to, if they have to add an additional step in their payroll process. But as far as fees, the program itself will be asking employers for or matching contributions, there's none of that. If there is a small fee, it would be between, the employer and the payroll provider that they use to maybe set up the payroll deductions per month for those employees. But we are advocating strongly and trying to partner with payroll providers on the back end to see what we can do to make that bring those costs down. And we encourage you to talk to your payroll provider, you as a payroll provider, but other employers to be talking to their payroll providers too, like seeing what they can do to help accommodate this. But yeah, there
And
may
I think
be.
the setup, like the technical setup of the payroll deduction is not the complicated part um, for a payroll provider. What I see as potential issues is incorrect calculations of the deductions would be one thing, and then some employers are really short on money and having ensuring that the employer, especially with an employer that, I've worked with I've had an accounting business for 20 years or more, and like I've seen it all. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out, which is a year down the road, but
Mhm.
those employers not actually making the contribution would be another concern. So employers are going to be unhappy with a mandate because nobody likes to be forced into something, right?
Mhm.
Two, I think it's a great thing and it's a great option. And Colleen, I don't see any difference between the 401k and the plan that they're offering here. The only thing would be the matching component, which if an employer wants to match, there's free ways of doing that with a simple IRA. The dollar amount of the contribution is the other thing that you get with a 401k. You can contribute more with a
Yeah.
401k than you can with an IRA. But a simple IRA is pretty close. So it's one of the things that I deal with all the time, and it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. And I would be interested in following any kind of process that's happening. So
Rulemaking.
Yeah.
rulemaking
Yeah.
process? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's what
Yeah.
when Treasurer Mike Pelliciotti came last year, the year before, to talk to our community and business owners about this, that we really emphasized to him that already to have one employee is so cumbersome to small businesses. You know, it all these things kick in with SAW, and everything is set up from my perspective in as in a view of what's the easiest way for the agency to do this. And it's good that SAW has now integrated a lot of that, but you used to have all these different agencies, you had to go to all of them. And so I think however it can be accomplished to make it as easy as possible for those businesses that have 6 employees and are struggling monthly to get everything done. It is just a massive challenge. So if I can, Heidi, I'd like to call on Andra to get her question in.
Yeah. Hi, good morning. And I know that we're in the middle of your presentation, so this may be covered, but my question is for those employers who have a retirement plan and would qualify to need to have one, will there be a process and what is the process for them to, I guess, be exempt from this Washington Saves program?
Yeah,
And
those, oh,
what qualifications, I mean, is there, like with the plans that they currently have, what do they need to have to meet that? I guess would be my question.
great questions. Those details have not been determined yet by the governing board. And Lena, you mentioned that you would be interested in following the rulemaking process. The rulemaking process, we just announced that that's starting. So I can send you, if you want to pop your email, or I could send it up to Colleen as a follow-up, some details about that rulemaking process after the meeting. Yeah, and Lena and Andra, if you anybody, I'm gonna send also include information about our email at the end. If you want to share like your thoughts, suggestions, feel free to email us. You know, we're taking that information now. We're going to be using it to help inform the governing board as they're making program decisions. This is what we're hearing from employers. This is what we're hearing from payroll providers. You know, we our interest is designing a program that's going to be easy for businesses to participate. Andrew, that includes doing the exemption process and what kind of proof you need to show that you don't think you're exempt from it. We're hoping to make that an easy, streamlined process as well. But those details haven't been ironed out as far as exactly what you will need to file an exemption and how you'll do that. I'm imagining there's going to be an online process, probably a mail-in option, and probably a call-in option to be able to to work on that exemption process. But those details haven't been worked out, unfortunately, yet. So
And
I can
I
come
would
back in this
almost,
fall and or the next
yeah.
winter as we get closer and provide more details as the rulemaking process shakes out.
Thank you. We'll let you keep going with your presentation. Thanks, Heidi.
Okay, great questions. Thank you. So now that I've talked about who the program applies to, I'll walk through what it actually looks like for employees or savers. This program features an automatic enrollment of employees. So once an employer registers with Washington Saves and submits that employee roster, their employees will be notified of their options to start saving through an IRA account. Their participation is completely optional. They will have a decision-making period to decide if and how they want to participate. And if the employee doesn't opt out, they will be auto-enrolled in the program at the default settings. However, they can decide to opt out of the program or back into the program at any time. This program also features flexible contributions, so employers will be able to choose how much to save per paycheck, or they can choose that default rate to be determined by the Washington Saves Governing Board. They can change their contribution amount at any time because we know financial situations can sometimes fluctuate. And Lena, to your question about mistakes made on incorrect deductions, the program administrator will be notifying the employer about what employees are enrolled in the program after that decision-making period and how much their contributions should be from each pay period or payroll from each pay period. So hopefully that'll minimize the incorrect calculations on payroll contributions. And then savers will have a small but robust menu of IRA investment options to choose from to build wealth over time, and accounts are portable, meaning the IRA moves with the employee when they change jobs. If their new employee participates in Washington Saves, the employer can continue to contribute to that same IRA account. Or if the new employer is exempt from the program, the employee can choose to leave their IRA alone and continue to grow their money over time, or they can make contributions to their IRA as an individual, or they can roll it over into another retirement plan. So next up, I'd like to share some pending program design decisions that the Washington Saves Governing Board needs to make over the next few months. Please keep in mind that some of these elements I'll be sharing are not finalized, but I wanted to give you an idea of what we're thinking the program might look like. And the finalized design features will be included in the regulations the governing board ends up filing with the state of Washington within this next year. So this slide lays out the employer's responsibilities on a timeline. The way we envision the program will work is employers who may be subject to the mandate will receive a notice from Washington Saves saying they have to register by a certain date. Once you receive that notice, you'll be able to register at any time before the deadline. And we encourage businesses to sign up early to give the best service possible and to give their employees the opportunity to start saving right away. Then we're anticipating that this is one of the decisions the governing board still has to make, that within 30 days of registration, employers will be required to take that next step, which is finishing their account setup and uploading their roster of employee information. Once we have the roster of employees, that's going to kick off the employee decision-making period. And we anticipate that decision period will be around the 30 days. But both of those 30-day periods are decisions the governing board still needs to make. During the decision period, employees will have the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to participate. And any employee that does not opt out, will be enrolled in the program. And then usually that first or second paycheck after the decision period, the employers can start making their contributions for their employees into their IRAs. So now let's look at a little more detail about what the automatic enrollment process looks like for employees. Your employee participation in the program is going to start when you, as the employer, uploads that roster of information into the Washington Saves web portal. Once Washington Saves has that information, we'll begin to send notifications to your employees right away. If they have an email address, we will notify them within minutes of uploading that information. Otherwise, we will send the information via US mail. The notification will inform the employees about the program rolling out and encourage them to come to the website or customer service to learn more about the program and their options to customize their account if they want to do so. And it will communicate to the employee about that decision-making period. I've got 30 days listed on this slide as an example, but that is yet to be finalized by the governing board. After the decision-making period, the employee will be added to the program if they don't opt out. And and then that's when the employer can start making those payroll contributions. So let's look like what it'll look like, the decisions that the employees can make during that decision-making period. Their options are to do nothing, and in which case they'll be automatically enrolled in the default or standard account options. And then option 2 is we encourage employees to come to our website or call customer service to customize their account. And remember that employees have complete control over their contribution rates, how they invest their money, and other details on their account. And then option 3 is they can decide if they're not ready, or if they don't want to participate in a program like this, they can opt out. We're going to try to make this function as easy as possible by giving an employees the option to do this online, over the phone, or by filling out and mailing in an opt-out form. Again, we aren't trying to force people into something they're not ready for or don't want to do, but we are trying to remove as many barriers as possible so that it makes it easy for folks to participate. And then next, I'll share some of the standard and customized options we're thinking about for employees. First, on the account type, we're thinking the Roth IRA will be the default account option, but will allow employees to choose a traditional IRA if they want. The Roth IRA is one that you can contribute to after tax, so it's after tax income, and you don't get that tax deduction in the current year, but you do get tax-free growth. So when you reach retirement age and you start making withdrawals of income from your account, you don't have to pay taxes on the money then. And the Roth IRA provides participants a little more flexibility before they reach retirement age. For instance, if a financial emergency comes up. With the Roth IRA, you're allowed to withdraw your contributions before you reach retirement age without taxes or penalties, but there are some income limits on a Roth IRA. So if a person either makes too much money or if they prefer to take that tax deduction for the current year, their traditional IRA will also be available. For their contribution rate, employees will have complete control over how much they contribute into their account, but this is what we're thinking will be the default situation. If an employee gets automatically enrolled, it doesn't customize their contribution rate. We're currently looking at a 5% contribution rate with a feature called automatic escalation. So that means we'll start people off at around 5%, and then every year, probably in January, we'll bump everybody's rate up 1% per year until it reaches 10%. That's based on some of the best practices we're seeing in the private sector for retirement plans like 401ks, where they're using automatic enrollment and automatic escalation to make sure folks are having the best possible outcomes when they reach retirement. The more they save during their career, the more wealth they will have by the time they reach retirement age. However, employees will have complete control over that, so they can adjust their contribution rates anywhere from 1 to 100% of their salary, as long as they stay between the IRS limits for contributions to an IRA, which in 2026 is $7,500 per year or $8,600 if you're over 50. So savers can change or pause their contributions at any time or opt out at any time. So if something happens and they're experiencing financial hardship, they can pause their contributions, they can withdraw their contributions if they need to. And that auto escalation is also an optional feature that they can turn off and back on as they need to. And just as important as what this means for employers is what this means for employees. Washington Saves isn't just about setting up another IRA, it's about restoring trust, expanding access, and giving people a real pathway to build wealth over time. It lowers the barriers for employees to start to make it easy for them to start saving by featuring automatic enrollment, payroll deduction, low investment fees, and a simple enrollment process. The portability of accounts helps them be consistent with saving even if they change jobs. Our hope is by giving flexibility for employees to opt out or change their contribution at any time, it will help build trust and confidence in their ability to save. Having a public board overseeing the private investment firm program, administering the program helps build accountability, and using clear, culturally responsive communication will hopefully help people understand the program and build trust in participating. And finally, Washington Saves offers a tool to build generational wealth over time beyond Social Security alone. And we know Social Security isn't enough to meet basic expenses, and we want to give people the option to start saving in other ways. So another feature that's coming up that you may or may not be aware of is in 2027, there will be a new federal savings program for low and moderate income workers called Savers Match. And the federal government will provide a matching contribution of up to 50% of the first $2,000 contributed towards retirement in a year, and will deposit it directly into the Savers retirement account to further boost their savings. Lastly, Washington Saves will also help employers build a nest egg to withstand financial shocks. Program rules are still being developed, but we think the default account will be that Roth IRA, which will allow employees to withdraw contributions that they need to in a financial emergency without penalties or fees. For example, if their car breaks down and they need to use some money to repair their car. So this slide highlights some of the key activities that we'll be working on. And I see that we're running, are we at 8:37? Okay, yeah. I just want to check the time here. So some of the key activities in the development of this program include, over the past few months, we've been doing outreach and listening sessions with employers and savers. Like I mentioned, you're still welcome to share your thoughts via our email, and I can give you that information or listen in on the rulemaking process to give your input to the governing board as they're making decisions. We'll be sharing the feedback that we've heard from listening sessions with the governing board over the next few months as they make those design decisions. And then this summer and fall, we'll continue our outreach efforts to employers around the state to make sure they're ready for this program, know it's coming, and know how to prepare, what to expect. And then in early 2027, we'll be launching a pilot program with select employers to test out our program processes before we fully launch. We'll also be sending out direct notifications to employers to let them know that they may fall under the mandate due to reported employee hours, and give them instructions on what to do next. And then we anticipate opening the program in July 2027. So I'd love to encourage you to stay connected with the program as it develops and opens in July 2027. We're always looking for opportunities to educate businesses in your community about Washington Saves. So we really appreciate this forum. Colleen and Mitch, thank you for having us here today to be able to help businesses understand that this is coming and what to expect. Please let us know if you have other suggestions on organizations, meetings, or events where we can partner to do presentations or share information within the next year as the program is getting ready to launch. And you can volunteer to be an early adopter of the program by participating in our pilot program in early 2027. So please let us know if you're interested in doing that by emailing info@wasaves.wa.gov or calling the number there, 360-725-7814. You can also send your questions or suggestions to that email. And finally, you can find more information about the program and sign up for email updates on our website at www.wasaves.com. We will be adding more and more information as the program, the rules are developed and it becomes more detailed and as to what the program will look like. So, please go now and take a look, but feel welcome to check back at any time, see what's happening with the program. You can also sign up for email updates on that website to get updates directly sent to your email. And then you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Blue Sky for updates. So thanks for, again, having me here today, and I will open it up for questions if anyone has any more.
Great. Thank you so much, Heidi. I may have missed it, but like you talked about this being a public-private partnership, where will the money be held? Would it be a Vanguard or a Fidelity, or what kind of account? And then would those individual employees be able to invest in different equities in their account like you do normally with a 401k or IRA?
Yeah, so those are great questions. We are preparing an RFP, RFI process right now to explore either working with our own financial program administrator for the accounts, or partnering with another state partnership. There's other states around the country that have done this. So exploring both tracks to see what's going to offer the best options for savers in the program. So that process is going on now, but it will be a private financial company that it's administering or managing the accounts. And they will have a menu of investment options to choose from that the savers can choose from. So we don't know exactly what that will look like yet because we haven't gone through that process, but we have, a criteria of things that we're looking for, the board is looking for, in those investment companies, and those include, things like data security and privacy of information protections, a good menu of investment options, low fees for savers. We want to get the lowest fees possible for our savers. And of course, once that gets to scale, those fees will continue to go down. It's the goal of the governing board is to make it as the program grows, the fees will go down, and we want it to make this as run efficiently as possible with the lowest fees possible. So
Mhm. What are you expecting those fees will be? Because that it'll be a fee to the employee, correct? Since there's no fees to the employer,
yeah,
the employee will be paying the fee.
yeah. I think that those are still, left to be determined, but as I mentioned, the board's goal is to make sure it's the lowest fees possible, and it'll be compared to what fees will be comparable to what you'd see in other 401k plans for small businesses. They'd be
Okay.
on that same
Okay.
scale.
And then another question. Yeah, I owned a business and we had a 401k plan and we had to pay the administrator a lot annually. So I assume if it's a really big 401k program, those fees will be, divided amongst a lot of people. So it would be lower. But when you have a IRA account, or I'm thinking of, my experience with Vanguard, I can do either a managed account with higher fees, or I can do just a regular brokerage account where it's self-administered. Will that be an option as well? And self-administered, has much lower fees where I
Yeah.
choose what to invest in.
Um, I don't know the answer to that question, Colleen.
Okay.
I can definitely look into it and get back to you. I think those are details again that will be worked out by the governing board. But I don't
Okay.
know if they'll have a self-administer option, and then a account administered option from the financial institution.
Okay.
But yeah, there'll definitely be a menu of options to choose from, and people can um, decide what they want to do, and the fees will be, very clearly outlined so that they know what they're getting into and how much of, what their contributions will go towards the administration fees. So yeah, but I'm not sure if there'll be an option for self-administration, investments, but I'm writing that down and I'll get back to you on that.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
So does anyone else have any additional questions for Heidi? Big, huge new program that a lot of businesses are going to be dealing with. So we need to get the word out about it, and really appreciate you providing your email. So we've got an actual person to talk to, and sure you'll be getting questions from folks. And we will definitely be referring people to you to share some of your expertise. All right. Oh, we got one new question in here. Yeah. Thanks, Heidi, for putting in the email. All right. Well, it's 8:46 and I'm not hearing any additional questions. Heidi put her email there, so please contact her, and we'll be getting more information out as we roll this out. So again, we appreciate you coming on and explaining things. And I'll give you everybody back their 14 minutes or so of the morning. So thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Oh, is there another? Oh, thanks, Mitch. Have a good day, Colleen. Thank you.